The 1v1 interview series is a production of the Boss Rush network of podcasts. Visit bossrush.net to listen to our podcast and read our articles, game reviews, and more. You can also follow us on Twitter at Boss Rush Network to stay up to date with our content. Thank you for listening.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to 1v1 here on Boss Rush Network. I'm your host, the Enlightened Insider V. Joining me is the humble hockey player that I know, Mr. Jack Brough from the Boss Rush writing team. Hello, good sir.
Hey, everybody. How's it going, Ed?
How is it going? It's going good. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year as well.
Before we get in, I have got to say, we met Jack through Nintendo Power Block. We started talking about snacks, and he started talking about, it's this snack you got to try out. This snack you got to try out, and the snacks that he's been giving me have been amazing. So thank you for the snack talk.
Of course.
Have you been a big snack person or anything?
Yeah, I mean, especially it's in my line of work. I work for a snack distribution company and have been there for 13 years. So, when it comes down to that, I'm surrounded by it all the time, whether it's with one of the brands that I sell and distribute, or if it's a competitor. I see things, that are on the shelves, sometimes before other locations, and it catches my eye. And then, even with my stuff, I get samples of things before they're made available, so I can, give my feedback and such. And, it's a nice little perk with my job to be able to get some of those treats and such. So yeah, I've always been big into snacks, and this is definitely the time of the year for snacks, because there's plenty in my house. I'm sure there is for yours right now too.
Oh yeah, it is. I got snacks galore. The Christmas candy that's been on 50%, 70%. Yeah, I kind of stocked up on some good old snacks.
Nice.
Which is funny because our Christmas candy at my job is like literally almost gone. It's like there's only 2 shelves, and then there's all the decorations, because we already got Valentine's Day candy out. And I'm like, I haven't found anyone to love yet.
Yeah.
It's out.
I know it's always such a quick turnaround, in the stores about shoveling it out, which as well. They got to promote the next big holiday, and shove it down our throats before we can even forget about the previous one.
Yes. Well, Jack, I want to ask you, how did you get into gaming?
The first gaming system I had, or my family had, was the NES. My older brother bought it. I was probably like 6 when he got it. And that just started my love for games right then. Neighborhood I grew up, there were so many kids on our street. We lived in row homes. There was just kids like every single house, and it seemed like everybody had a Nintendo, and we would just trade games left and right. So it's not like if our library was limited, the neighbor 3 houses down had 25 different games. So we all just honored each other and just would trade. So got to play so many different games throughout the time. From there, that's what started it. I had a bit of a patch. My parents didn't care for games, so they were reluctant with the Nintendo. And then there was a time where they took it all away. So I know. I actually won a Super Nintendo when I was like 9. I was at a Phillies game. I got to be on the field before a game and won a Super Nintendo in 1993. So it was a couple of years into the system, but I'm 9 years old. This is the greatest thing in the world. Had it, and I was at the age where I have 2 brothers. So my other brother was 12, and the other one was maybe 6. Apparently, we would argue all all the time. So my parents just said, nope, enough's enough. We're not handling this anymore. And made me sell the Super Nintendo. Yeah, I know. It was pretty devastating at the time. And then from that time, I didn't have another gaming system until the GameCube. So missed out on the N64, missed out on PlayStation launching, but I still, I was kind of like a video game junkie. I needed a fix. I was always friendly. All my friends still had games. So with the N64 era, we would always like have sleepovers and such. And, if it was over at my house, somebody would bring it over and we'd sneak it out and play 4-player games and such. So still was able to be a part of it. But then, once I started working and when I had my job and the GameCube was coming out, that's where I was like, no, I got my own money. I'm buying this myself. And worked it out. And also I was older. My brothers and I weren't fighting as much. So we were able to, handle it a little bit more maturely. But that, I think, just sparked it. I wasn't allowed to have it. So my obsession kind of grew with it. And I dove into it hard. And, the GameCube, I got to relive a lot of the old games that I missed out on. And now ever since, after that, I got the Wii the day one of that launch. Same thing with the PlayStation 3, and I just kept on diving into it hard, and I, still at it right now. Man, and passing along to my kids too. So
you missed some treasure.
I've gone back. I've definitely, a lot of the big titles I've gone back and been able to play, but I missed them at the time, and being able to have the schoolyard talk and such. Like I remember when Ocarina of Time came out and I didn't have an N64, but hearing all of my friends talk about it, it was like, oh my God, I got to get this game. And I remember my one friend, when he got it, he was after the fact, and I was with him when he got it, and got to play the beginning of the game for the first time and played the inside of the Deku tree and was like, oh my God, this is incredible. It's beyond anything I've ever been able to play in my life, and wasn't able to play it for years later. It's not like somebody would let me borrow a Nintendo 64 and right. I was, 12 or 13. It's not like I was able to acquire any money, not any real money to be able to buy that. So yeah, I got with the lead up to the Wind Waker coming out, with the Master Quest and all of that being released as a pre-order, I was able to finally get into it and play it for the first time then and really dive into it. And, I've been really hooked since.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned having your Super Nintendo taken away. I actually, as a kid, I got some bad grades in the fourth grade.
Okay.
I failed, and I had my Nintendo controllers taken away. So I still had the Nintendo in games. I just couldn't play nothing because
my read the manuals.
Yes, but God is good because I had a neighbor who had extra NES controllers. So he let me borrow one of his controllers, and when my parents kind of went to sleep or they weren't at the house, I would plug it in, play my Nintendo, and then cut it off. And they never found out about it because I end up getting my controllers back, and I end up getting my friend back his controllers. Nice. But I found a way to game. It was weird because even my brother was living with us at the time. He had like the Sega Genesis and the Sega Master System. So
nice.
I would be able to play games on those systems.
Okay.
So I had ways to stay gaming, but man, to have your whole system taken away, I'm like the Super Nintendo.
I had to sell it. I had to went to a flea market, and I had to sell it. Like it was like such a punishment, and just make my parents sound out like it's painting them in a bad light. No, my parents are great. Get along with them, fantastic. And, I've had some fun experiences with games with them since, like when the Wii came out and Rock Band and everything like that, they would participate. They just didn't know how to handle 3 bratty kids yelling at each other, screaming, it's my turn. And, now that I'm a dad, I might have taken a similar approach. Or in your case, hit the controllers and use that as a punishment or a motivation, because I even remember when we still had the original NES set up. Like there'd be times where okay, they would limit how much we could play, but then I would take a game and hide it by the front door. And then I'd be going to a friend's house and then I'd play that game over there and such, I would set up ways to be able to continue it going.
See, it was because I am the gamer in the family, it was always easy to get games. And later on when I got the Game Boy and everything, I would sit back in my bed and play the Game Boy until almost 12, 1 o'clock, even though I know I had to be back at school. But I had my homework done. I had my grades and stuff done, playing Pokemon, Super Mario Land 2, the Golden Coins, playing all of that. I was able to do that as a kid. My thing with my mom was that because she was the person buying me a lot of games, she was just like, as long as you keep your grades up, you can play video games as much.
Yeah.
Because she knows how much of a gamer I was, because I would go to Walgreens with her, and every time I go to Walgreens, I run to the magazine rack because they sold the EGMs there.
Oh yeah, I would do the same thing, and like I said, I would live vicariously through means of that same piece, or even going to Sears, when they would have the gaming kiosk. I remember first time seeing PlayStation and being like, what the heck is this? I didn't know it existed, or even other consoles that didn't have much success, like the Saturn. Being able to play them in department stores and being like, oh, this is what I'm missing out on. At that time, I was like, I'll never be able to experience anything like this. It just made me feel like I was totally missing out. But I'm getting to live through it now, and it's I made up for it for the most part.
And I think I know for me, jumping out of Nintendo, because my first non-Nintendo system was the TurboGrafx 16.
Okay.
And that was at the time because it was just I got the Super Nintendo, my brother got the Sega Genesis, I could play arcades, but I'm going to get something that no one in my city or state is doing. And nobody was doing the TurboGrafx at that time. So I was getting, the cheap $20 games on the TurboGrafx, or I was still getting the Super Nintendo, and my brother was getting his Genesis games and stuff, or renting Genesis games. But yeah, doing that was my livelihood right there. Good that you mentioned borrowing games with your friends, because that was the rental era as a kid.
I got to play so many NES games that tons of people haven't even heard of because they're so obscure, because there was honestly 30 to 40 kids on this block. So, and everybody knew each other, and there was such a diverse catalog that we would have and be able to trade. And of course, I think every neighborhood has one kid that has basically every single game. And it was all right, let's go down to him. And he was a couple of years older than me, and I'm 6 or something, and this kid's 10 or 11. That feels like an eternity away from each other. And I remember times reluctantly going up and knocking on the door and being like, hey, can I borrow this game that I know that you have, and feeling so awkward. But sure enough, he would do it, and it would be great as long as we would be able to return it.
Everybody, that was our era of Game Pass, if you think about it.
Yeah, honestly.
Because when you give the game back, it's sometimes you remember, you forget, and if that kid moved, whatever game that you gave him, he took, and then you have his game, it would just be oh man, I forgot. But that's how we used to do it back in the kids. What about the arcades? Did you have an arcade?
Yeah, we would down the beach when we go on vacation, but there weren't really any. Well, we belonged to a swim club for a couple of years, and they had a few machines. But yeah, it was really like only if we went on a summer vacation where we would go 1 week out of the year, and there would be one night where my parents would reluctantly take us to, an arcade, and we would get, $5 to $10 worth of quarters, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is your limit. Enjoy it, and don't ask me for more. Spend it, I don't care on what, and go from there. And I remember some nights, like the X-Men arcade game and the Simpsons arcade game. They were some of my favorites, and I remember getting all the way to the end of the Simpsons arcade game and running out of quarters.
Oh!
And it was like, no. And, I was one of 4 people. It was fully crowded, and had to see somebody step in for me to finish the game. It was like, you got to be kidding me. I just spent all this time and, saw the ending by somebody else filling in my shoes. But no, yeah, the arcades were great. I mean, that was actually something where my mom is really into skee ball. So she would have a good time. My dad just couldn't handle the noise of an arcade. He would just be like, the hell with this. And, after 30, 40 minutes, he'd be ready to drag us out of there. But no, yeah, they were good times. But like, I didn't really have too much experience at like the malls or anything. The malls I couldn't walk to. Even when I was older and such, like, I'd have to take, buses and trains too. And by that time, the N64 was out. So it was just easier and more convenient to just go, all right, let's just go to, Brian's house and, play GoldenEye or whatnot. So
yeah, I think when the more powerful consoles start coming out and the arcade kind of started fading away, it was kind of just like, man, if it was a game that I missed, if that arcade version showed up on PlayStation, I'd just buy it on PlayStation.
Yeah.
I was telling Lamont that's kind of how I did some of the arcade games. That when the console version came out, I would get it, practice it, and then go back to the arcade.
Yeah, so you could show off your skills.
Use those skills,
yeah,
and everything. Because I think with the arcade, you just didn't have time to perfect, to learn.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And everything. It was just like, I got $1 and that's it.
Yeah.
Like, So, well, that's cool. That's cool. What game did you miss that you really wish you were able to play when it originally released?
I would say, like, I'm a big Zelda fan, as I know a lot of other people on Boss Rush are, but that series, like I said, I missed the original. I remember seeing the original and even Zelda 2 on the NES, but I was 6, 7, 8. Like, it didn't, and I didn't have enough time to really dig into it. But like A Link to the Past when it came out, Link's Awakening, and then Ocarina of Time, in that window, I missed out on it. It wasn't until the first Zelda game that I played and beat was Link's Awakening. I was introduced to it on an emulator in like 2000 by a family friend. And I was like, this is incredible. Like, I can't believe I'm missing out on this type of game. I would just play a lot of strictly action games. I wouldn't, not with no story, no exploration or anything like that. I would just play, basic platformers and such when I would have a chance to play, or multiplayer games, because I'd be playing at a friend's house. So I missed that era. And because of that, I think I missed out on really getting into JRPGs. That wasn't, I'm not the biggest fan of them. And I think that's because I missed out, but the few that I played, I've enjoyed. It just feels like I just don't have that connection. And so when I do find one, it's like, oh, there's a great surprise. I think the first one that I think it was Golden Sun on the GBA that I really got into. And, from there I played a couple others. I did go back and play Chrono Trigger, which is incredible. But, they were past the time of the original release, and, missed out on experiencing it. By the time it was like, I had to go back in time to talk about it with people, and they're like, what the hell are you bringing this game up for? This came out 10 years ago or whatnot.
it's so weird with Chrono Trigger. It was very historic in Japan, but it was so low key in America when it came
Yeah.
out. And of course, people, JRPGs kind of in the Super Nintendo days was like wasn't a popular genre at
Yeah.
all. It was it was something that if you did get it, you bought it through a rental store because they made it cheaper because it's
Yeah.
like $60-$70. And me being a big fan of EGM and reading it and hearing that because I in my mind I'm thinking Final Fantasy was going against Dragon Quest, like that was
Hmm.
the battle.
Yeah.
And Final Fantasy was big here, but Dragon Quest wasn't big here, but like when Dragon Ball Z came out, it was just like, or Dragon Ball, that's when people started seeing Akira Toriyama and just like, oh, okay, I know it. So to hear that the creator of Final Fantasy, the creator or designer of Dragon Quest and Akira Toriyama coming together to make Chrono Trigger blew my mind as a kid. So when I seen it, I had to play this game.
Yeah, and that's stuff like that's all new to me. That's what I missed out on. But like I would have totally ate that up if I had the opportunity to. But now I read about it retroactively, and
Mhm.
it still fills the void. But it's still like how could have things been? But I'm totally happy with the way that it did. But at the time, it was a bit of a frustration. And filled my time with other interests and such. As you always do.
Did you get to play Turtles in Time on the
Oh
Super
yeah,
Nintendo?
no, no.
Yes.
Okay,
Oh.
so as a kid, that was one of the things that I was able to have, and I got full support from family members. Was my obsession with Ninja Turtles. I mean, I staying go out with my grandma, and do some errands and stuff. And then, if I was good, I'd be rewarded by going to the department store and picking out a new turtle. And yeah, so I had a ton of the action figures, and yeah, Turtles in Time was fantastic. That was actually one of the few games that I believe I was able to rent. I know I played it on the Super Nintendo. I know I
Yes.
played the arcade as well. And yeah, that game's fantastic. You know, I can't wait for the new release to come out. Shredder's
Yeah.
Revenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're like most of all the boss rush is planning on buying it.
Oh yeah.
Uh, I'm hoping for literally I'm hoping for a physical later on. Come
Yep.
on, no limited run games. I need that physical because it's going to if they do physical, it's going to sell. I
Oh
was
yeah.
telling I was telling them that the Switch version, if you are not on it, that Switch version is going to be gone in
Oh
seconds.
yeah. It definitely will. I mean, it fits that market perfectly. And it's just yeah. I'm really looking forward to being able to pick that up and play it. With other people on Boss Rush and just strangers on the internet or even go through it,
Yes.
solo. But that's the type of game where it's a perfect drop in, drop out, be able to play a couple levels here and there. And I'm looking forward to being able to playing a new story and new levels and new abilities. And yeah, I'm ecstatic for that game.
Were there any sports games that you got into? Because knowing you're a big hockey fan and that you
Yeah.
play hockey, was it Blaze of Steel or NHL '94? No, that was Super
Yeah,
Nintendo.
yeah, and there were there were some friends that had Sega. My dad's friends and their kids would have games. So times where we'd be over there, we would definitely play the NHL games on Sega. But games that I was really and play Blades of Steel. It was great. I mean, like you would fight, and if you won the fight, you weren't penalized. So like it encouraged beating the other player up, so you would get a power play. A
Yes.
little bit of a reversal, but it was great. No, got into just the NHL games. They were the big ones that I still pick up and play. You know, not as much as I did in my college years, with my roommates and such, because I lived with guys that also played hockey.
Mhm.
So we all had the same interest, and we would just gather around, play 4-player hockey, two on two and such. And it was, a lot of trash talking going back and forth and carrying on. And it was always a good time. Um, Learn that, would touch base with some baseball. I would hate Madden. I remember the last game of Madden I ever played. It was against my older brother. He just got, I think it was Madden 2004. My brother had a PlayStation and he was out living with his wife at the time and his son. And it was the Madden that had Michael Vick on the cover.
Okay.
So they introduced like this new passing mode. So he was off all day. I finished work and went over. He's like, you got to come over and play this. I lost 70-14. Yeah. And I was like, I'm never playing this game again. He's like, he sat home and played that game religiously all day and then comes and whoops my butt, that big. I was like, I can't even, no, I'm not spending the time to get, any bit decent in that game. I give up. So I'll never play another football game again, or at least another Madden game.
So my brother, he's into football. He played it in high school. He's always been. Sorry about that. He's always been into sports, and he had Joe Montana football for Sega Genesis.
Okay.
And so he used to he made me play the game, and I didn't know what I was doing because I'm not educated in sports. Everybody, forgive me. I like arcade sports. I play some from time to time, but I just didn't know like what passing, who's these players. Didn't know nothing. I beat him once in Joe Montana, and he was furious. He was enraged, and he said, "I want a rematch," and I told him no. It took a couple of months for him to calm down, and so I played him again, and he won again. I used to just get destroyed because I didn't know how to play, and I was just like, I may not be able to play this type of game, but you sure enough can't play the Mickey Mouse game on Sega Genesis. You can't do this game in Sega Genesis. Like half of his library, all the games that he got, he never beat it, and I did.
Yeah.
Like he had Michael Jackson's Moonwalker on the Sega Genesis.
God. All right, nice.
And before he even got a chance to play it or beat or anything, I had beat the whole thing already.
Nice.
Like I learned it and everything, so I understand. Like playing sports games, I'm bad at it. I could trash talk all I want, but I will lose tremendously. Even NFL Blitz, my friend, that was his game. So we played at the arcade, and he was just like, "Oh, you trash talking now? Okay, we'll see." It's like, "Yeah, I'm a win," and then he would just obliterate me, and I'm just like, can we go get gyros?
Yeah, exactly. I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, talking about hockey, how did you get into the sport?
It was actually I moved when I was 10. My parents moved away from that neighborhood, and kid Sam Hammond, who lived around the corner. I remember the day after we moved in, he comes knocking up on the door. And my mom answers, and he just goes, "Hi, do you have any kids?" And it's like, wow, look at this kid. Like now it's like looking back on him, and like that took some guts for a little, 9-year-old, 8-year-old kid, however old he was at the time. And he was into hockey. Hockey was foreign to me. I didn't play. I was a baseball fan, big baseball kid growing up. All you need is a glove and a ball and a bat and, neighborhood of kids, and everybody has a great time. And so we would play in the street, and he had some goalie equipment, and I was like, let me give this a try. And it somewhat came natural to me. I enjoyed it, and because I enjoyed it, I put in time to it and started to learn some things. And like I said, at this time I was 10, 11 years old. And, then the kids I went to school with, they started playing some street hockey. There was another kid that had some goalie equipment. He and I were best friends throughout middle school and such. And we would just get together every single day after school, if the weather was nice, and just play at the park near us and just play every single day after school. It was awesome. And that's just what that went on from when I was 12 to 14 years old. We would do that. And, that was just street hockey. But then my dad and mom, they asked if I wanted to try ice hockey. And, I didn't know a damn thing about it. I never even really been on ice skates that much. I was like, yeah, I'd love to. And there was a place right outside of Philly where hockey's incredibly expensive. The equipment to join the league, it's a lot. So my parents found this place. It was $50 to join for the season. So you got to practice once a week. There'd be a couple of games. And for goalie stuff, they had some equipment. So we weren't going to go out and spend a ton of money if there was something that was going to, fizzle out. So got to use some of these old pads from the 70s that were heavy as can be. Oh yeah. And probably way too big for me, or some parts were too small, and got to be on the ice, at least once a week, and just loved it. Absolutely loved it. The year afterwards, I joined an actual. This wasn't a league. This was just an in-house introductory thing. Then got to join a league when I was in 8th grade, and I played for a team outside of my township. So they had to make some rules because I was playing for a different township, and that's where I got to play my first time. And I had some success and fell in love with it. And, now one of the guys on the team, my best friend still to this day, it's great. And, continue to play throughout high school, some in college, and I still play now. And I still play with a lot of the guys that I went to high school with. And, we still get to catch up and meet every day. And it's just great. Right now, it's just kind of like, all right, it's a fun time to do some exercise, do some competing, but also just hang out with old buddies and just reminisce about old times. Grab a drink or two after some games, depending on what time they start. Some of our games don't start until 11 o'clock, and and I'm up very early for work most days. So it's like, I know that my time's limited with my hockey playing days, but trying to get every ounce of it in, before my body just says, no, this is enough. So.
And your position is goalie, right?
Yeah. So, it's definitely a physical demanding position. Have to be quick on your feet and flexible and stuff like that. So not only just, I try to stay on top of it when I'm not playing as much. And then you have, a bunch of flying hard rubber pucks flying at your face. And I'm not the tallest person in the world, so I get a lot of shots that are aimed towards my head. And that's part of what's wearing on me. It's like, all right, getting beat up a little bit too much right now. So maybe I'll think about hanging up the pads somewhat soon.
How does it take? How does it take? What level of concentration must you have in order to play that spot? Because I know you're on this big ice rink or field or ice field, and
ice
you
rink.
got all.
You were right.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have to keep focus on all the players and where the puck is going. And I know that puck is not big, so it's just like, how do you or goalies in general, like, how do they focus on that?
It takes a lot. A lot of it is like you ask any goalie, and if they had a great game, they probably weren't thinking. It was just they were in the zone, and just it's almost like an out of body experience where it's just like you just read the play before it's even happening, and you anticipate things. A lot of it is luck. A lot of it is skill, and a lot of it's just what you do to prep. Being in the right spot at the right time, being able to read where people are going. But like you said, yeah, it's one puck. You have 5 people in front of you on your team, but then the other 5 on the other team in front of you, and it's a battle. It can be quite exhausting at times, So, but it's been a ton of fun. Absolutely love it. There's been some real rough games, but there's also been some games and seasons where had some success, and feeling like an old person here, but my last 2 years of high school, we won the championship against our rivals and such. They were great times. There are things that I'll never forget, and it's just a great experience to still be a part of my weekly activities.
I know a lot of people are asking about the fighting.
Yeah.
Not just like I don't know how the fighting works in hockey, because you got
yeah, like at my level, like if you get in a fight, you get suspended. It's not allowed. The refs that are there, they're getting paid not to break up a fist fight. They're told, okay, fine, let them fight, and then once they're done, get them out of the way. Usually fighting takes place just because it's somebody. The refs can't catch everything, but most of the time the players will catch up on it. And if somebody gave them a cheap shot, it's their retaliation for protecting one of their teammates, and they'll do that. And that's why it's allowed in the NHL and other pro leagues. It's a way to self-govern so things don't blow out of proportion and have somebody get hurt by doing something worse than fighting. And every now and then fights will take place in my leagues and stuff, and I'm glad I put that aggressiveness behind me, because I used to be a hothead when I would play, and would start fights, and would gotten into a couple myself, and it's like, man, I look back at it and it's like, geez, this is so stupid. I'm doing this for fun.
Blows.
Yeah, and like, yeah, there'd be my cheap shots. Like I said, being a goalie, there'd be somebody in front, and I'd be hacking them with my stick in places that I know don't have a lot of equipment, and in the back of the knees and stuff, and just being a dirty player by being competitive. And there's some times where then it finally blows up, and then all of a sudden everybody's fighting each other. And it's times like that where it's fun to look back upon, since thank God I never had any horrific injuries by doing something stupid like that.
Has it ever been like a fight that just made you laugh, because it was just like, what are y'all fighting for?
Now if I see somebody on my team, like now, say over the past couple of years, yeah, we're doing this at 10 o'clock at night. We're paying to be here, and it's our own time. And then we're going to get in a fight when we have to get up and go to work the next morning. That I look at that, I laugh now. Like I would only get involved in something if I saw somebody do something horrific, like slash somebody across the head or something like that. And unfortunately, there are dumb people in the world, but I think for the most part, from what I've seen now, the people that are in my league, they're calmed down, where it's not really a worry, even though we're being competitive, even some chippy stuff, it's given up easily, more so now than it has been in the past.
And so. Do you guys play like 3 quarters for 15 minutes each?
Yeah, 3 periods. We do 15 minutes. NHL does 20 minutes, but we're not anywhere near that level. So yeah, okay. It's 15 minutes, and it's enough. Each game lasts about an hour and a half of real time, with all the stoppages and such. And it's a lot of fun. It's I just had a game. When was it? On Monday, so a couple of days ago. So it's still enjoyable.
How long did your season go?
This league, I think we have 18 games. So there's 2 leagues a year. So there's a fall, winter, and then there's a spring, summer. And they break it up. Each team plays 18 games.
Okay.
Then we do a playoff series as well. And in this league where I play, there's multiple levels of leagues, and there have been some talent in some of these leagues that I played in. One season I actually had an ex-Flyer who's arguably he's one of the better Philadelphia Flyers that I've ever played. John LeClaire. He played in the same league that I was playing in. It was like, you got to be kidding me here. We're playing at this league. I was playing at the same rink that I grew up playing all the time. And I'll tell you what, the first time we played against them, this guy gets the puck, comes into the zone, and rips a shot right by my ear. And I was like, oh God, this is what I'm dealing with. You got to be kidding me. So he gets the puck maybe 15 seconds later and effortlessly puts a backhand high above my shoulder. And I was just like, oh, okay. This is going to be a long night. We lost 6-4. He had 2 goals and 4 assists. So that guy was the reason that the other team won. He was involved in every single one of their goals. And I know he put in maybe 10% effort. Because if he was actually putting in all of the effort, he would have just, lit us up even more so. So
did you get to talk to him after? Like, did you talk to the team?
We did the handshakes and such, but there's a guy who he doesn't want to be doing that, and I'm also past the age where it's like I'm not starstruck. I'll say I was a little bit starstruck when I saw him on the ice and saw how big he was and how good he was, but there wasn't an environment for me to talk to him. And, if the roles were reversed, I know that he wouldn't want to be talking to some scrub men's league goalie about how he, totally whooped his butt. So, but nonetheless, it's a cool story, especially with me being in the Philly area, that when getting to talk about hockey, I could say, oh, I played against him before. And people are like, what? How did that happen? So, it's a neat story to be able to share.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I had to ask because, of course, here at Boss Rush, we talk about games, we talk about movies and entertainment. We don't really get to talk about sports or even talk about sports games that we played and stuff. So it's good to know that, when you talk about hockey and you're so passionate, I'm getting educated because I used to go to Fridays.
Okay.
And I used to watch the Blackhawks play. So me and my friends, we there, having drinks, eating food. And at times I would literally watch the Blackhawk games. And every time the Blackhawks scores, I'd be like, yeah. Now, and I've never watched a whole full game of hockey until I started going to Fridays and watching them. I would sit down and watch it. And guys, I didn't know the whole rules of the games. I knew the fighting. I knew that scores were 1 point. And maybe you might see a whole game and maybe 2-0. You just be like, huh? How? I'm like, you guys had this all this time. And you just never realized that it takes a lot just to get that hockey puck in.
Oh, yeah. And some of hey, I'm a bit biased because I am a goalie. So I like seeing big saves and big defensive plays. But there are some really great games that are ending 1-0, 2-0. But then there's also other games that end in 6-5, and they're very exciting as well. It's just kind of how it goes. Some games, it's just certain things go the right way. Other things, I mean, geez, there could be blowouts too that end in 8-0. And those games are awful to watch, even if you're the winning team, in my opinion, because it's not exciting. But I will say, and this, I think any hockey player or hockey fan will say, if you ever have a chance to see a hockey game in person, it doesn't even have to be NHL. It could be even a high school hockey game, something like that, to be able to see it live and in action. It's just night and day. being a hockey fan, watching it on TV is exciting, but being there is just so much different. I've gone and seen professional, baseball, football, basketball games. Hockey is by far the best. Like I said, I love baseball too, but sometimes, watching a baseball game, I mean, it's like watching paint dry sometimes. There's so much nuance and so much downtime. Hockey, it's like, no, it's just constantly moving, and it keeps you entertained. And if you have a chance and you haven't ever gone to one, anybody that's listening to this, do yourself a favor and try and seek it out. Make it a different night. If there's no movie out in the theaters or something like that, check a local ice rink and be able to just see it. Even if you stop in for 20 minutes, I think you'll be entertained.
Yeah, I used to play volleyball in high school because there was a girls volleyball, but I ended up doing 2 years of boys volleyball when they brought it my junior year. Mm-hmm. And it's like when I see a volleyball game, I get zoned in, and I don't know who the teams are. It's that action. It's that feeling of when you are in movement, when everybody's doing what they're doing, when there's a good volley going back and forth, it draws you in. So definitely with hockey, I can see it with that. So
yeah, definitely.
So if everybody didn't know that, Jack is, like I said earlier, that he's part of the Boss Rush writing team. How did you get into writing, just in general?
Because I was following the podcast and the Twitter account. Mm-hmm. When I told my wife that I had the first setup with David to inquire about the writing team, my wife's jaw nearly hit the ground. She goes, I am not. I would have never associated myself with writing other than what I have to do with work. And there's no creativity to the writing I have to do with work. It's, a lot of it has to, I have to be careful with what I say, and things have to be legally, cut and dry, and it's boring, but, I have enough practice with just basic grammar there. Yeah. And it was more just about putting my creative side that I didn't really think that I had. But because I kept seeing, the request for writers, and, I got drawn into this by just being a fan of the shows and just reaching out, asking questions, trying to engage conversation.
Yes.
I figured this would be another step for me to bring up other means of conversation. And, I put some stuff together and got some great feedback from the different members on the team. And I've been happy to put in the time, to write a couple different articles. I'm trying to psych myself up to do, an actual review. I haven't written a review. That just seems like a daunting task, and just haven't been able to do it. Also, up until recently, I didn't have a laptop. My wife did, so I would use hers, and it's just sharing a laptop. It's like, it's hers. She likes to do crafts and stuff with that, and I was taken away from that. Now I just, with Christmas just passing, I was able to gather some gift cards, and I bought myself a laptop with all of those gift cards. So now it's like, all right, great. Now I have more time. So I'm building up the courage to be able to do it. But yeah, I never thought in a million years that I'd be able to say I'm a part of a writing team. Even now, it's still kind of shocking, to me, to be able to say that. Like, and I tell like friends and other family members, they're like, really, you? Yeah. And, I'll share it with them and stuff. And, some people are like, I never thought of, the topic that I brought up, where I didn't think that, you would be able, that was your line of thought with that topic or something. Mm-hmm. So it's been a fun experience over the past couple months.
It's I know for me, when it comes to writing, even before Boss Rush and DNA and everything, there was OneUp.com
Okay. Yep.
during those years, and they allowed you to write blogs on there.
Okay.
So I was writing a lot of blogs, so a lot of that's where optional opinion kind of started at. Um, my very own podcast, and then Venture Beat. And I'm not the best writer. My grammar sucks. My grammar is questionable content. So thank you, editors and everything. But I've always been into creative writing, reading books and like reading EGM. And speaking of like reviews, it's just like I think my first review that I ever did was like a written review with a score was of Yoshi's Crafted World for the Switch. And just like working with Corey and getting that piece up, it was just like, wow, who knew that something like this I could put out? Because reviews weren't on my mind. It was always a topic or something that I wanted to discuss. And that was my thing about it, was like putting this out and having people read it and seeing what the feedback was. One of my biggest one, and I told the story before, one of my biggest writing thing was why I disliked the Xbox 360. Some people thought I said why I hate it, but I was just like why I dislike it. And there's a site called VentureBeat, who used to just do all video games, and they would post the top 5 blogs of the week. And I had 4 of my stories get published as one of the top 5. And that was really one of it. Yeah. One of the writers who was at EGM, he actually responded and said, dislike feels kind of harsh.
Oh.
And I was shocked because it was, yes, it was, it's a weird story, but I got into writing because definitely about video games, that I wanted to write more. I wanted to write topics and stuff like that and change people's perspective about gaming and everything. And I think that's always been my thing. So when I write stuff on the writing team now, we have a formula. Well, not a formula. We have a format. And, having people read our work and everything is definitely reading your work and reading anybody's work who posts the stuff out. I get excited because the first thing I feel like I want to respond to my team member, and my response is so podcasty, is that I feel like I would create a bigger discussion if I talked to him and this just felt like a podcast. Yeah. My reviews and stuff, I guess my reviews come from, I want to break everything down so I can make sure people know what I'm talking about. Because me as the reviewer, I know what I'm saying, but I have had other people to be like, when people read your work, they may not understand where they're coming from. So it's just like, well, I don't want to put too much information, or I don't want to put, least information, but I also want to make it sarcastic at times, but not mean. Like put a different spin on it.
I think it's better overall format to have like a discussion, like a podcast, like you have the talk the walk, hearing that where it's multiple people talking about the same game in different ways. That I think is more engaging to me. I like reading reviews. But I'd much rather, like you, have a conversation, a discussion about it, make it more of a two-way conversation rather than just, okay, here's everything from start to finish of what I thought about this game. That's where I'm right now going, man, this is a lot, and I don't want to miss out on something or overlook a certain aspect of a game that I thought was minuscule, but other people would blow up without being able to have a rebuttal with that individual and just go, No, this is, oh yeah, that's a great point. I overlooked that because I was more interested in this aspect of the game, or so on and so forth.
And I know for me, I'm kind of old school that I give this intro, I give what the plot, what the game is about, and like give my opinion about it. But then also I make sure that I talk about the controls, the music, the graphics, and then anything else that people should be aware of before I dig in. Because if I'm going to uh if I'm going to be very critical about a game, you would see it in my writing on how critical I am.
Yeah.
And when it comes to people podcasting with me and we talk about it, some people are just like, man, I can't believe that you went so hard on that game. And it's always when that happens, it's just like, it's because I go hard on certain games. It's because when another game does the same thing and get criticized for it, why can't this game be criticized for those same things?
Yeah, no, it's a fair, remark, and there's definitely bias for certain games
Oh
or
yeah.
genres. It happens, but and certain things are just hard to explain through any medium, and unless you actually experience it. You can't really tell anybody that a movie is great and sell them on it until they experience it. Might be able
Yes.
to, you know, gain some excitement so that they finally watch it, and then be able to experience that point. But that also can work the opposite way. A lot of times you can build so much hype around something that you go in expecting the greatest thing in the world, and then you're let down. That's where it's like, that's why I would prefer, a discussion piece rather than, just a one-on-one. Like you and I did the collaborative piece on the
To the expression.
yeah, exactly. Like, even though we didn't, sit down together and write it out, we wrote our opposing, you know, remarks, and
Yeah.
then we collaborated it together. It was still like, that was something to, go back and forth a little bit more. And I think that's just where, all right, I just got to get that part out of my head and just go, nope, this is a game. This is what these are my thoughts. This is what it was. And, once I convince myself of that and pick the right game, I'll be able to put my mind and time into it and hopefully, grow that skill.
And that was my first collaborative work with you, and I
Yep.
love doing collaborative work because it's not only us. Just, I don't know what Jack is going to say. Jack don't know what I'm going to say, but we're going to write it out. We're going to send it to each other. We're going to get ideas, and then if we, because our writing is going to be there, but when we see each other and talk to each other, we're going to of course have a bigger discussion and
Oh, of
everything.
course.
Because I definitely felt like when we wrote that piece, I took a lot from you about it, and I was just like, I understand everything he's saying, and he's completely right and stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's a good thing. I think when you write together, or when you're just writing, and you're reading people's work, is that not only did you get to form your own opinion, but you gain something from it.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's not about a writing and about a right or a wrong. It's just
Mhm.
about sharing your experience or your opinion on something. That's what's great, to be able to debate without making it a messy situation. Be able to, I mean, in that situation, you and I had different opinions. It doesn't mean that I'm right or that you're wrong or the
Right.
opposite. It's just, nope, this is my opinion upon it. This is your opinion upon it. Let the reader decide which one of the facts that we're labeling,
Exactly.
do they side with? And I think that's an exciting way of being able to share, some of the stuff that we do with the site.
It is funny because it's, I always feel like, definitely in this digital era, that it's going to be there until they take it down. So
Hmm.
whenever you want to make that choice and you make that leap, you can. If you don't want to make it, that's completely fine.
Yeah.
You know, it's it's always what you as the reader are comfortable with, and what you take away and what you buy. Because just like I told you, Jack, when we were talking about it, a lot of people did not pick it up. They really thought it was expensive, and I think
Hmm.
now that some people just like, well, I got some gift cards, I'll go buy it. And some people have picked it up and everything. And I think it's just like, for me with that piece, I think people weren't seeing what they all were getting.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the confusion was, and it's kind of Nintendo fault that they didn't explain the pricing on it. Like, it is $50 if you are new to it, but you're getting four systems.
Yeah.
Everybody thought it's just like, when I paid 20, so I got to pay another 50. So they're thinking they're paying $70. No,
And that's where
they
I think that they set the precedence with, okay, we gave you online functionality, we give you
Mhm.
the cloud backups, we give you the ability to play NES and Super Nintendo for $20. Okay, so
Yes,
that set up the framework. So then Animal Crossing DLC, I don't think that I think they threw in as a last minute bonus, which yeah, it's how many copies has that game sold? Like 30 million or something like that.
yeah,
Of course, that's going to be an incentive for a lot of people, but for me, it wasn't. So I look at it as I'm getting two additional systems or access to certain games on those systems for $30. That's where I saw the difference of, okay, wait a minute. You set the precedence of giving me this, and then they didn't expand on anything else with the online infrastructure. Give me achievements or trophies.
yes.
Give me the ability to voice chat, not through a secondary app. Things like that. That's where I was like, okay, that's where I saw the difference in the value from what they set the precedence with to what they went to. And that's where it's like, oh, hold on, $50 a year is not expensive. There's no doubt about that. And that seemed to be a lot of people's argument. No, it's not. That's not expensive. But if you're paying for, PS Plus is $60 a year, and what they set up, I think you get a lot more out of that $60 than you do with $50 for the Nintendo Switch Online plus the expansion. But that's just how I view it. I also view it as the Nintendo games and the Super Nintendo games on there. I I haven't put in enough time to be able to get my value out of it, so I knew I wouldn't be doing the same with the Sega and the N64.
And I think that's why it it didn't I didn't bring up Game Pass. And I
Hmm.
because that was going to be a separate article that I was going to write, where I felt like Nintendo Online game wise offer more than Game Pass. And I didn't write it and I didn't put it out or anything, but my mind frame was that I felt like Nintendo offers like import games that people never played. These retro style games that you can see the history, why what this mechanic or this series where it began. Where I kind of feel like with Game Pass, people have it just to have it.
Yeah.
And it was just always just like, how many games are you beating off of this? Or how many games that you knew it came out, you had the chance to buy it because you had the system during this era, but you didn't support it when it came out.
No, no, of
You
course.
know,
And that's where, I think a lot of people just they want to have the access to it, but I'm at the point where I'm like, look, I know I'm not gonna if I have an hour or two to play a game tonight, I'm not gonna pick up, too many games from NES or SNES or even N64 games that I've already played before. And
yes.
you know, yeah, I'll pick up Mega Man 2 and fly through that. No, but that's more of something just because I wanted to scratch that itch of reliving that game. I'm not going to go in and play Fire and Ice that was announced for, because I missed out on it. I'm not going to go, oh, geez, I missed out on this game that, basically nobody's ever heard of,
But
type
I
of
think
deal.
I think that makes it interesting to be like, what is this fire and ice? What wackiness is this?
Yeah,
Techno did it. Okay, let me see what insane this is. And I think it's just that curiosity that it has on there.
I understand that completely. I just know that I'm not going to spend. I'll pick it up and I'll spend 5-10 minutes going,
Oh
what
yeah,
the
that's
heck is
fine.
this? But that's where it's like, okay, I didn't see myself doing that with too many Sega Genesis games or
Yes.
N64 games, where it was like, okay, even if I doubled the time just to check it out, it still wouldn't add up to be worth my 30 additional dollars a year. And it's like, all right, I'm gonna hold out. Hey, Paper Mario's out, or is that one out?
Yeah,
Or is
Paper
it come?
Mario's.
Okay. Yeah, I got and Banjo Kazooie is coming out next month.
Yeah.
Paper Mario is great. Maybe I'll just get the urge and won't have to dig out whatever system I have it on. I don't know. I don't think I have access to that one, unless that's on the Wii U Virtual Console. Who the hell knows? I haven't turned that on in the longest time. So, I might get that urge to play that game, and that might be the straw that convinces me that $30 a year is worth it, just for one game, and then I'll be eating my words then. So I'll be sure to let you know if I do finally bite the bullet. But right now, I'm still holding out on the expansion pass.
And and I think that's fine. It's nothing to worry about. I think the reaction was that it. I think some people just didn't realize what the $50 was doing, and
I think that's fair. Yeah.
I think because every time people are just like $50, $50, I'm like, that's if you don't have it.
Yeah.
Anyone who else has part of the online, yes, you're paying up to $50 because you're getting the discount, meaning that you're paying the difference. So in all, you're still paying 50, but since you already paid it, you're not doing 70. You're just paying the difference.
Yeah.
And so
Sure.
you're caught up. So when it is time to renew, they'll charge you another 50 or something. I'm like, and yeah, I understand that there isn't the American functionality of online gaming. Um, but I'm like, it's the Switch. A lot of people still play a lot of single player games on this console. You know, yes, it is great that we play Mario Party. It's great that we play 3D World. It's great that we play Mario Kart and Splatoon. What other game are you guys playing on that needs all of that?
I would miss out on voice chat. I mean, you've talked about the time where me, you, and Dan
Yes.
played. If we had voice chat, then I think that would have made and hell, that experience was a great time. It was funny as can be. And you could almost make the argument that it was addition by subtraction. That like I'm only seeing your character make a mistake and going, what the heck did you just do that for, without hearing your reaction. So there was some of that involvement that you can make the argument that it added to it.
Yes.
But I still wish that we were able to, talk about it while we were playing, because I know we were sending each other messages afterwards.
Yeah.
But I think that's something that I just wish was so much easier, because there's so many friends and family members that have it that I would be more inclined to utilize the voice chat feature if it was built in instead of going through my phone app. Like I have a 10-year-old nephew. He doesn't have that. And I understand that there's some security features and protecting kids from weirdos out there, which, trust me, I get. But also, Nintendo at the same time is very proud about their parental control features that they put out there. So give their fan base that has grown up with their systems the ability to do things that has been normal for 15, 20 years now. That's where it's like, I just wish I had it, because I would utilize it, because I utilize it with my PlayStation and such,
See, I will. Yes, I 100% agree with you. The thing with me, I know that if Nintendo has voice chat and we're all talking, it's going to be like someone record this, because it turns into a podcast.
It would.
It's just be like, this is one of the most funniest and fun nights, and we know some things will not hold against each other or anything, but we'll remind people why like some of the stuff, and it's an inside joke at things, but it's just like you just don't know how funny it feels when someone falls out and kills himself
Oh
because
yeah,
of mistake, and
it's
then
hilarious.
everybody is just laughing at it. It does make you feel like a kid, and I think that's when online really works.
Yeah.
Trust me. I don't know. I think there's a video. I had to go check. I had to ask Corey. Me, Corey, and Jesse was playing Halo 4 and or Halo 5, and there's this elevator part, and I'm just waiting, minding my own business, ready to do the mission, and Corey hits me off the elevator, and I die. And Jesse and Corey is just online laughing. I'm like, what the heck? And we just had literally a ball. I think we recorded. I gotta go find it. I think it's that interaction was when you're acting goofy and you're having fun and you're talking. It it gets turned into a podcast because it's so much fun to get entertained. And I think
Exactly.
and I think with if Nintendo did online chat, it'll be more entertaining. Now,
Oh,
hopefully,
without a doubt.
yeah, hopefully they do it. It's not a big worry to me, because the moment they do it, we all gonna be like, okay, let's get on chat, let's get on
Yep.
Nintendo Voice Chat, and let's just like talk games and have fun.
Yeah. No, exactly. That's what, I feel like I'm missing out on, and all Nintendo fans are missing out on, because
Yeah.
I think it adds or has the ability to add a lot more to the experience rather than just being told through the game and the gameplay.
Yes. Well, everybody, that has been our 1v1. Jack, I want to ask you, what is your breakfast snack to go to?
Breakfast snack? If I were to have any choice of a breakfast, it would be French toast. French toast and bacon. No doubt about it. But typically, I go to cereal. Like cereal is just a food group, like a food category. I love going down the aisle in the supermarket and just going, okay, where's their new cereal? And I love just jumping on and trying all different types of it. So that's my everyday basic go-to.
What is your one cereal that you just gotta have? Like, to me, it's Honey Nut Cheerios. I love Honey Nut Cheerios.
I like Frosted Mini Wheats is my go-to because it's
Really?
filling. That's where it's like, okay, it feels more like a meal. I don't need to eat 7 bowls of it and feel like I just destroyed a whole box. But yeah, I'm simple in that, and also like Frosted Flakes are fantastic. But if I'm feeling adventurous or something, maybe I'll get like Fruity Pebbles with marshmallows in it and stuff like that. And then yeah, something like that. But no, I like going. I'm pretty basic with it, but I love trying the new stuff. When like they came out with like a Dunkaroo cereal, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
of course I'm buying that. Then they'll come out anything that's a new cereal. It's in my shopping cart. I'm picking it up and I'm trying it at home because I'm like a kid when it comes down to that stuff.
Is there a game snack that you go to also, like Doritos, pizza?
It's usually pretzels because they don't mess up the controller. It would be Doritos. I love Doritos, but no, pretzels are nice and easy for me because it's like I don't have to worry about gunking up my controllers or anything like that. I like taking care of my stuff, and I don't want to, have any Dorito dust or anything like that on my controllers. But yeah, just a basic, pretzel sticks or something like that. That's just like, I think it works out perfectly where I could still eat and play at the same time. But now, if it's other stuff, pizza and video games go hand in hand too. From doing sleepovers and stuff like that. Yeah, it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect.
Well, Jack, thank you for coming on doing this 1v1. Go ahead and plug. Where can people find you?
All right, yeah, thanks a lot. I appreciate you having me on. Flattered that you asked. Yeah, I'm a part of the Boss Rush writing team. You can see my stuff there. My handle on Twitter is GeekBro27. That's also what I use for gaming stuff. So if there's any interest, reach out there. But yeah, I'll continue to be a part of the writing team and pop on different things like this when I have the opportunity, because I love the chance to be able to hang out with other people and talk about games. So that's where you can find me. So thanks a lot again for having me on, Ed.
You have to come on Power Block and Expansion Pass.
Yeah, I'll be sure to let you know. You'll be the first person I let you know when I bite the bullet.
Well, everybody, you can find me on Twitter at ThatVentureCode. Yes, you can check more stuff out on Boss Rush on YouTube and BossRush.net. Check out our merch store on BossRush.net. And we have a lot more coming this year for you guys. Just keep watching, keep listening, and yeah, we will talk to you guys later on 1v1. Bye, everybody.
See ya.